Hello, friends. It has been quite some time. My basic explanation for that is that I didn't prioritize using my husband's computer when I could. Earlier this year, I do all of my editing on his computer, and was really bad about making time to do that earlier this year. And towards the end of May, a lot of things kind of imploded in like my personal life. So summer was kind of a disaster on that front, but like has slowly been turning around since like the middle of August. So I'm hoping to get back to posting more regularly and getting back to talking about books with you guys. And so today I wanted to do something a little bit different from what I normally do. I usually do just some sit down videos. And I've seen this done, several times on BookTube, and I was like, you know what? Let's just do that. So what I'm going to do is do a tier ranking of all of the books that I have read from the first technically 7 months, but I read a book and DNF'd a book in July, so I don't think it's I think we'll cheat a little bit just for that. Before I get into the books, I wanted to go through like my tiers and all of that, and just kind of explain how I was gonna categorize things. So first we have Perfect, and these books are going to be ones where everything that I enjoy in a book was really well done. These are going to be new favorites of all time, and these are books that have surprised me in some way. The next tier is Made Me Feel. These ones are going to be like a new favorite of the year, potentially of all time, depending on how well they stick with me. But these are going to be ones that made an emotional impact while I was reading them. Uh, and they're also ones that I for sure know that I want to continue on with the series, or they made me really excited to get to more of the author's work, stuff like that. Good is going to be like a really solid, well written story, but not necessarily as emotionally impactful as some of the other books on this list. The books in the fine category are going to have some flaws, but I had a mostly good time while reading them. Meh is going to be a book that fell flat or was just actively not working for me. And this includes a lot of the ones that aren't memorable or adding something unique to the genre. I mainly read fantasy, so something in that genre mostly. And no are ones that I've just had a bad time. Some goofy reasons, some not so goofy. So let me get my screen. There we go. So we're going to start right off the bat with several series of manga. So first we have Demons of the Shadow Realm. This is going to go in the I'm going to put this one in the good tier. This is by the same mangaka as Full Metal Alchemist. I'm still getting a feel for where things are going with the story, but I'm really enjoying it so far. Next is Sakamoto Days. This one is also going to go in the good. This is getting more into how Sakamoto's past and present overlap, and these later volumes have felt a lot more gritty than the first few. We also watched the anime, and it was super cute, really well done. And I think I just have one volume in the stacks, but I will definitely be continuing with both of these. A Man and His Cat is going to go in the Made Me Feel. I discovered this series last year and was kind of surprised by how much I liked it. This series deals with heavy topics in such a hopeful way that I really appreciate. Also, the cats are really cute. Barakuman is also going to go in the good. This is a slice of life manga that is super goofy. I want to see if I can get it from the library before picking up more volumes from the store, but I could definitely see myself picking more up from the store if I can't find it at the library. Mages of the Library is also going to go in the good tier. This one follows a boy who's a little bit of an outsider in his village, and all he wants to do is become a librarian at the great library in like the capital city. It's very sweet so far. I've only read a couple volumes. The art is really pretty, and I'm excited to continue with the rest. Now getting into some novels. The first is Your Coffin or Mine, and then the next one is Howl You Doin', HOWL. And these are monster romances on KU. The premise is, what if Dracula's werewolf BFF convinced him to turn his castle into a boutique hotel? The first one follows Dracula, he gets his bride. The second one follows the werewolf BFF and the chef that they had hired at the hotel. And these were really fun. I really appreciated that it includes other monsters from literature and urban legends that you don't typically see in romance novels. Like, I think the third book is going to be Frankenstein. So that was like a really unique twist that I hadn't seen before. Next in the made me feel category, I'm going to keep saying category. Y'all know what I mean. Road of Bones and Kingdom of Claw. This is a Viking-inspired fantasy romance series. I enjoyed the first one, but really liked the way that the world expanded in the second, and you get more POVs in the second one. I do have some questions that I want answered, so I'm reserving final judgment until the rest of the series comes out, but it's going to go in the made me feel for now. Next, we have our first meh, and it's This Woven Kingdom. This was a reread, and I kind of forgot how little actually happens in the book. And then I also noticed a couple things, like with the writing and character interactions, that just annoyed me. And after I noticed them, I couldn't unnotice them. So I read some reviews that said the same things that bothered me continued into the third book. So I cut my losses for like 45-ish pages into these infinite threads, so that's going to go in the no category. We also have our first fine book. That's going to be Heart's Prisoner. This is a different take on an alien romance. She's a behavioral psychologist tasked with figuring out how humans can foster good relationships with other races in the universe. And she gets sent to a high security military base for a tough case. And I generally liked this, but thought that the romance needed to be explored a little bit more. And then there were a couple like suspenseful horror moments that I think could have been leaned into more and like really been amped up. And the next one in the made me feel tier is going to be East of the Sun, West of the Moon. This is a collection of Norwegian folktales illustrated by Kai Nielsen. His artwork is beautiful and dreamy, but there's also something kind of creepy and unsettling about it. East of the Sun, West of the Moon is one of my favorite stories of all time, and I'm super happy to have such a beautiful edition in my collection. There are other folktales in the collection, but that's probably the most well-known one. Next in the good is All the Missing Pieces. This is a romantic suspense, and I haven't picked one of these up in a really long time, probably 10 to 15 years. I was pleasantly surprised with this. I would definitely read more from the author, and I don't know if this was gonna become a series or not, but I would read more if it did. Another one in the meh tier is A Rebel Without Claws. It was fine. I guess I could put it in the fine category, but I haven't thought about it since I read it in February, maybe. So I think I feel pretty good about it being in the meh. So this is the children of the couples from the Stay a Spell series. It was like a hair insta levy for my taste, like not the most egregious example of it by any means. It wasn't bad, but it just wasn't super memorable, like I said. And I don't really feel inspired to continue the series when it comes out. The next group, however, is going to be our first perfect series. And that is the Rook and Rose trilogy. So it starts with Mask of Mirrors, and second is Liar's Knot, and then the third is Labyrinth's Heart. I loved everything about this series. Like the characters, the intricate world, the plot, all of it. And you can tell how much thought the authors put into every aspect of this world. There is sort of a tarot inspired magic system in here, and there is an article that I found where they're talking about the tarot deck and how like the designs and meaning of each one and how that impacted the plot and the story. There's also like clearly a functioning financial system. The history and folk tales of the world were very much tied into the plot. And then the character relationships to each other were built and rebuilt in such realistic ways that I was like, oh, these people are having what feels like accurate reactions to the things going on around them and the things other people are doing to them or near them, you know. And I truly cannot say enough good things about this series. I will say that my reading suffered for several months after reading this because nothing could compare. Everything that I was picking up was just I would just sit there and think, "Oh, these books did it better." I do have another fun one. This is gonna go in the good. This is Marriage Toxin. I'm gonna put you here. This is such a fun, goofy time. I have a couple volumes that I have waiting for me that I'm really excited to get to. I think if you like the sound of the premise, you're gonna have a fun time with this. I also have Stitch and the Samurai. We're gonna put you here. And this is basically what if Stitch went through a time loop when he escaped from the Galactic Federation, like at the beginning of the movie, landed in Edo period Japan, and basically enraptured a samurai with his cuteness. It was a super cute read. I did end up giving it to my friend's son who loves the movie and is really into Japan. He had a good time with it too. Another one in the same category, same year, is A Story of Seven Lives. This is a manga about the lives of stray cats on the streets of Tokyo and how they intertwine with some of the humans in the manga. There were a couple dark moments, but it was overall very sweet. The next one in the no category is Rush to the Altar. This follows a guy who has been sent by a wealthy uncle who has found God on his deathbed to go find a fallen woman to marry and make like the belle of society. He thinks she's a prostitute, never takes the time to verify if she is or not, and then acts surprised when she doesn't act like one and treats her not great either. And I'm like, sure, did you come save the day when she needed you to? Yes, but also, like, you have a lot of making up to do, and you're it was just a man making assumptions, and I did not appreciate. Next in the fine category is Forget Me Not. I feel like there needed to be some more time spent on why they were getting back together and not just backstory, but it was mostly fine. Back down to meh. We have Dragonbone Chair. This is one of those cases where it worked on paper but not in reality. The main character was kind of endearing at first because I thought he was a combination of Gilligan and that screaming kid who's running across a field in Robin Hood Men in Tights. But he pretty quickly became kind of annoying. Also, the writing style was very much a problem for me. It felt really indulgent. The pace of everything was really slow. So I got a couple hundred pages into Stone of Farewell and DNF that one. So that's gonna go in the no tier. Next in the good is gonna be that a series that did suffer after I read the Rook and Rose trilogy. The first is Rain and Ruin. This is gonna go. Oh, we'll just put you there. This is a Turkish slash Arabic inspired fantasy romance series, and there's an anti-magic empire that is encroaching on the magical kingdom in this where this series is set, and the Sultana needs to bolster her internal support before taking on this external threat. Each book follows a different couple with that main plot running through each of them. It I do think I would like it better on reread, but then the Sultana did some the way that she spoke to the main character, the female main character in the second book, just kind of like there was one moment where I was like, "Really? That's how you want to play this?" And so I didn't appreciate that interaction at all, one bit. There's also like a magical component. This is called the Mages of the Wheel series. In the magical component, she's been kind of secretive about some of the stuff going on, and I'm a little worried that a thing that really bothers me is going to happen at the end of this series, and I am going to be so pissed if it does, because I hate it. I hate it so much. And yeah, I will definitely be continuing the series, but if it ends that way, I'm going to be so upset. The second book is Storm and Shield, and I liked that one the best. I really like the couple in that one. Third one is Siren and Scion, and then the fourth one is Ice and Ivy. I do think a lot of people would really like this. This has a really good balance of fantasy and romance. Like, it's not like there is still a significant amount of plot to propel the story, not just the romance itself. The next one that's going to go in the made me feel tier is Best Hex Ever. This was a super delightful book. The relationship was cute, the sex was hot, the story was fun. And then there was a moment where the women in the story went off to dance in the forest and commune with the spirits of dead loved ones. That kind of got me. I am really excited for the sequel. I think it's coming out November, maybe? Another couple to go in the good tier are The Stardust Thief and Ashfire King. These are the first two books in 1001 Nights inspired YA fantasy series. It's not necessarily a series I feel like I need to have on my shelves, and it also made me start considering that maybe possibly some of the YA getting published no longer works as well for me now that I am an adult. I do think the second book had some flaws, but I read it so long ago that I can't remember them off the top of my head to be able to tell you about them. I will likely get the third book from the library when it comes out because I do think I want to finish the series, but I don't think I'm going to go out and spend my money on it, if that makes sense. And a couple that I did have a really good time with and are going to also go in the made me feel are The Fireborn Blade and The Bloodless Princes. These are two novellas that I kind of surprisingly enjoyed. I often feel like novellas are too short for the story to be fully fleshed out, for the world to feel fully fleshed out, but both of these packed a punch. I think the second book is actually shorter than the first one, and I would definitely pick up more from this author and in this series that I hope she continues writing. The next one in the no tier is Philosophy in the Boudoir by Marquis de Sade. This is basically French philosophy dressed up as smut. The smut was very prescriptive, but it was probably titillating for the time. I don't really love philosophy in general, and then this also had a rape scene at the end that took away any sort of historical appreciation that I might have had. I would love to see a video on this from Dr. Esme Louise James, who does Kinky History on I think she does both TikTok and Instagram, but I think I mostly see her on Instagram. And I would love to get her take on this as like a historical document. Another duology for the good tier is City of Nightmares and Cage of Dreams. This has such a unique premise. People can turn into nightmares, and it's set in a city, so it's sort of urban fantasy, but like mostly it's just chaos. I appreciated the unique world and the characters, but I can't say I really feel the need to reread. So I do think I will eventually pass this along unless my husband loves it. I saved it for him to pick up. A couple more in the good tier are Some Desperate Glory to hear, and then If I Have to Be Haunted. Both of these are from a project where I picked subscription books that I wasn't sure that I would like. I didn't love everything I picked up in that, but I really enjoyed both of these. Some Desperate Glory is set in space, like on a space station and other planets. It has some themes of eugenics, and the main character has very much bought into the propaganda. Fortunately, she grows a lot throughout the book and also has a really cute alien companion. That If I Have to Be Haunted is about a girl who can see spirits and sees her school rival's spirit, and they go on a journey to figure out what happened to him. It feels kind of Percy Jackson coded since they're traveling through the spirit world. I had a lot of fun with both of these. Like these are some of the really solid YA that has been coming out lately. So fully recommend. And these are ones that I think I'm actually going to hold on to. I'm going to speed through a few that are going in the meh tier. First is Spells for Forgetting. I honestly remember very little about this book, and Adrienne Young is pretty hit or miss for me in general. Heart of the Fae is Beauty and the Beast meets Irish folklore, which I should love, but it kind of fell flat for me, and maybe it's just that I wasn't like fully in the mood for this kind of story at the time. But I didn't end up finishing the duology. I have loved other books by the same author, so hopefully this is just a fluke. And I have been thinking about possibly going back and picking up the second one, but it's pretty low on the priority list right now. After that, we have The Forest Grimm. This was a weird amalgamation of several different fairy tales that didn't end up feeling super revolutionary for the genre. And it's also another example of possibly aging out of YA, but I do think Catherine Purdy writes for a slightly younger audience. I also didn't like Bone Crier's Moon by her, so it could also just be that she's not an author for me. Another Beauty and the Beast retelling is The Beast. This had a couple of unique aspects in the premise, but I was uninspired to read the rest of the series, which are other fairy tale retellings. The next one is actually going to go in the no tier, and that is The Darkness Within Us. There were a couple annoying things about this one. Like, there were annoying things in the book and then annoying things about how I got the book. I'll talk about the in-book annoyances first. What really bothered me is that all this poor female main character wanted to do is be left alone. The male main character is pushing her to marry again and can't understand why she wouldn't just do that because he has no idea what a woman's life is like. Like, she currently has full control over her life, and if she got married again, all of that control would be taken away. He spent a lot of time kind of ignoring or brushing off her explanation, and it took him seeing how she was treated by other men at a social function to like really get what she was explaining. Like, it didn't click for him that she had a logical reason for not wanting to do the thing that he was pressuring her to do. He did back off once he saw this interaction, but it was like he just like sat there and thought that she was being contrarian, and it just bothered me. It bothered me. It annoyed me. Yeah, they got past it. And I probably would have gotten past it too had the second part of the annoyance not also been weighing on my mind. So the external factors were that this is a second book in a series, and FairyLoot put this in one of their subscription boxes, and then turned around and like made a special edition of the first book to sell after we got this. And what's so annoying about that is some of the relationships in the second book were impacted by events in the first book, and you don't really have the context for that because you probably haven't read the first book, or you're not reading them in order. If you're getting them from FairyLoot, just really irked me, and so I went into this being kind of annoyed about it. So it just got me in that regard. However, going back up to the good tier, we have A River Enchanted and A Fire Endless. A River Enchanted was a reread for me, and then I finally completed the duology and picked up A Fire Endless. I didn't love the relationship between Jack and Adara in the first book, but I did really appreciate the way it developed in the second book. Hi. I don't remember where I was. Yeah, this is a really solid series. I think her writing is wonderful. This is in the good tier partly because it didn't leave as much of an emotional impact on me as some of these books up here. But I do think if you read it, you're gonna have a good time. I think the world and the atmosphere and the story and the characters and everything are all really, really well done. It's not something I sit and think about every day the way I think about some of these other books. The next one we have is a little bit of a nostalgia pick for anyone probably over 30. So it's probably familiar to you, especially if you watched the movies as a kid, like I did. This is Babar's Anniversary Album. I picked this up at a vintage bookstore. The collection came out in the 70s, but I think the stories were written in the 1930s. So it was both nostalgic as something that it is from my childhood, but also historically interesting because you really got a sense of how French people viewed their role in their African colonies. At one point, Babar gets lost and is rescued by a nice French lady who gets him clothes and sends him to school, and then later he takes all of this stuff back to his fellow elephants and brings them clothes and school and city planning. And I think it would be really interesting for someone to do a deeper historical literary analysis on that. Another one I think I'm gonna put this in fine. I'm gonna put you at the front though. The Duke's Inconvenient Bride. This is a set of twins. One is supposed to marry the Duke, but she elopes, so the family offers the other one. They actually have a pretty cute relationship, and I had a really good time with this one. Back down to some more meh books. We have The Pumpkin Spice Cafe. This one, this is in the meh tier because I've read other iterations of this, and this wasn't a super standout example of what it is. When the Weaver Met the Gargoyle is kind of on me for reading despite being warned that it was insta-love, which is very much not my trope. It was cute, but not memorable. I don't think I would completely dismiss other work from this author unless that was also insta-love. We also have Gold Digger. This is a modern day Duke romance. She's his cleaning lady. There were several moments later in the book, after they'd established a relationship, where she brought an issue to his attention, usually an external issue, not a relationship issue. He would dismiss it, and she would deal with the fallout of him ignoring her. Usually, his reaction to the event. And yeah, he apologized, but then he also didn't turn around and change his behavior. And it's like, sir, your privilege is showing. One that is very much opposite of that is Radiance by Grace Draven. She is always a delight to read. I cannot recommend her enough. This was a reread. I am almost tempted to go reread it again because it's so good. The more for the Made Me Feel tier are Godkiller, Sunbringer, and Faithbreaker. Godkiller was a reread for me. I loved it yet again. Sunbringer sort of suffered from middle book syndrome, but it was also necessary for setup and plot development going into Faithbreaker, which was a super well done wrap up of the series. I would love for her to revisit these characters after 10 to 15 years have passed in the world, just to see where they've ended up over time. Back down to the nose, we have A Dance of Lies. This has a similar start to Throne of Glass, but she's a dancer instead of an assassin and has been stuck in a cell for 2 years. All of her muscles are atrophied, and she's supposed to go dance her way into another king's court, but has no stamina to do so. It's not super original or memorable. I ended up DNFing it 40 to 50% of the way through. The next one I have a really goofy reason for DNFing. Baited is an alien romance. They're finally getting busy, going to Pound Town. He has 2 dicks. And puts both of them in at one time with 0 prep. And I was like, you have got to be joking. Back up to the perfect tier. We have the Rift War Saga by Raymond E. Feist. The first book is Magician, but in the US it's split into Magician Apprentice and Magician Master. Second book is Silverthorn. Third is A Darkness at Sethanon. This is a classic fantasy series from the early 80s, so I thought I had a pretty good idea of how the plot would unfold, but this surprised me in a good way. Mainly, events in the first book went out of the order I was expecting them to take, and when it didn't go that way, I was kind of like, okay, go on. Another thing the first book did that was kind of unexpected and is not something that you see very often was how much time passed in the world over the span of the first book. Like, it spanned something along the lines of 12 to 13 years in the first book alone, but then the action of the sequels takes place over 6 to 12 months, with maybe a year or 2 in between each. So, like, there's a year between the events at the end of Magician and the start of Silverthorn, and same with Silverthorn and A Darkness at Sethanon. Another surprise was that the middle book was my favorite, mainly because it felt like, what if the Two Towers had just followed Aragorn, Gimli, and Legolas the entire time? There were also a lot of my favorite character archetypes in both of the sequels. So I had a really fun time with this. I am super excited to pick up more works in this universe. I think there's something like 30 or 40 books. There are also a couple almost sci fantasy aspects to the world with portals and some time explorations that felt pretty unique as well, especially for the 80s. Funnily enough, I got both of these series from my Broken Binding subscription. Back to the good tier, we have Babel. I think I'm a little more middle of the road on this one than some people. Like, some people are like, oh my god, this is the best thing I've ever read. Like, it would be a perfect book for someone. But then other people, it's a meh. Like, I really liked the writing style. I thought the magic system was really unique. And I think the themes that were explored are very important and relevant to current events. I do think this is a book that is a potential starting point for someone to educate themselves on some of the issues that are explored in the book. However, I don't think the ending was unexpected given the conflicts and then the overall tone of the book. And I think because of that, I didn't always feel super connected to the characters. Babel was an engaging read, but I can't really say that it's a new favorite of all time. One that is a new favorite of all time, that's going to go in the Made Me Feel, is The God and the Guishin. This is yet another delightful read from Sophie Kim. Another K-drama in book form. It's the sequel to The God and the Gumio. I had a great time. I love these characters, and I would love more with them. I don't necessarily know that she needs to do it with them in particular, but I would fully support more in this world. It's a great time. Another one in the good tier is Under Lock and Key. It's not really a totally new concept where a woman goes to travel somewhere to explore her family history and then she meets someone on her travels, and but in this the someone just so happens to be man by day and Loch Ness monster by night, and her family is the one that cursed his. I do think the speculative aspects to Lana Ferguson's are what make her books magical over her other contemporary romance. One that I'm gonna put, I think I'm gonna put it, I'm gonna put at the end of good, is The Malevolent Seven. This is one of those books that plays with typical characters from traditional fantasy stories, and it has sort of a humorous or sarcastic tone that made it hard to get close to the characters. I do have the sequel, but whether I continue the series depends on my enjoyment of that one. I also don't know if it's more than a duology or not, so we'll figure it out together, I guess. Now for some books in the fine tier. I have A Feather So Black. This one was fine. I do think there are a lot of aspects to like about it, but I didn't feel the need to continue with the series, especially after hearing it was a trilogy. One was enough for me. For Of Jade and Dragons, I enjoyed it mostly, but I wish we'd gotten more scenes of the main character with her father before he was killed. He dies almost immediately, I think in the first chapter, possibly the second. And I think if we'd gotten more page time of them together, it would have been more impactful on the reader. And I also hated the love interest and wish that she would have spent more time developing her friendship with one of the other characters instead. I will not be continuing the series. After that, we have Twin Crowns. This is, again, another example of me feeling like I've aged out of YA a little bit. It's not bad or poorly written, but it's not necessarily something that I haven't seen in various iterations. And I do think someone younger and or newer to the genre would have a good time with this. It's just not one that I felt compelled to continue. Back up to the I don't know if I have this in Made Me Feel. We'll put it in Made Me Feel. Rebel Witch is the sequel to Crimson Moth. It starts off right back in the action, which I wasn't fully expecting, and it was a fun conclusion to the series. I do think you could argue that there were some flaws in its execution, but I liked the way things were wrapped up for my favorite characters, so it's also kind of fine by me. Back down to the bottom again, I have The Foxglove King. I'm gonna put this in the meh. The series was super weird for me because I really enjoyed The Foxglove King, but there was something about The Hemlock Queen that really tanked the series for me. I think it was because it followed a really similar plot structure to Foxglove King. I think if we'd gotten the info at the end, at the beginning of the book instead, and then had to figure out reveals along the way, it would have been more interesting. That one's going to be a no. Like, it kind of just dragged the entire series down. And then Nightshade God picked back up again, but not it didn't bring it back up enough for me to want to finish the series. And then there is a throuple in there, and one of them is kind of a wet blanket, so I really didn't care about his relationship. One back up in the fine is Eye of the World. This is the first book in Wheel of Time. I liked the world, it's really interesting, and some of the characters I really appreciated, but a lot of them were really annoying, and I did not really appreciate being in their head for multiple hours at a time because we were listening to it on audio. I do have the second book in the series, and because it's one of my husband's favorite series of all time, I will probably give it 3 to 4 books before I give up on it. One up in the good tier is Behooved. This is one of my birthday books. It has fairy tale vibes, and the male main character gets cursed to be a horse by day and a man at night. It's a silly, goofy, fun time, and was exactly what I was in the mood for. If you like fairy tale vibes, and this sounds at all interesting, it was very charming. I had a really good time. I would definitely read more from the author. The other birthday book that I got was For Whom the Bell Tolls. This is by the creator of the Hell's Bells series on TikTok. It's the prequel story of how Lily got to Hell and met the rest of the cast of characters. I loved it, and it got me in so many unexpected points of the story. Like, there's an old man who is sitting in the reception area of the afterlife waiting for his wife, who is still among the living, to pass away so he can meet her and they can go their next life together. And it's just like, oh my god. Oh my god. Who's chasing who? I don't know if you guys could hear that, but there was like a thundering herd. Anyway, another one that was like sort of a birthday book, but technically not. I think it came out either on my birthday or the day after or something. Was Bewitching Rago, which is the 8th book in the Clickanian series. I didn't love it as much as the others, partly because I had a pretty long break between reading the 7th book and when this one was released. And also book 7 was my favorite in the series, so it was going to be kind of hard to live up to it anyway. I do think I will like it more on reread. I am slowly working my way through a reread, but I've only gotten partially through. Back down to some more fine and meh. We have The Arrow and the Alder by Barbara Kloss. This is her take on a fae story. It had some similar elements to things like ACOTAR, and then some unique elements on its own. Unfortunately, the mix of the two didn't really work for me, and I don't think it hit as well as her other series for me. One that I'm really sad about is The Josad Heir. Something with the main character and her reaction to getting caught just didn't work for me. I wanted to love it so much. A couple that were fine were The Undermining of Twyla and Frank and The Undercutting of Rosie and Adam. Both of these suffered for a lack of a second point of view, like in Heart and Mercy. I did like the way things were wrapped up with the world and some of the characters, but then in the 3rd book, some of the characters kept referring to Adam as a pocket boyfriend, and there is someone that I dislike in real life who has a pocket husband, so it kind of goofily made me really dislike that descriptor in this book, and thus also be kind of annoyed at it. Another in the fine tier is A Study in Drowning. This was a really weird dichotomy of loving fairy king stories and then generally disliking gothic stories. So ultimately, one book in the series was enough for me. Last Hour Between Worlds is going to go down in the no tier. This is part Inception, part Groundhog Day, neither of which are my favorite types of stories, so I DNF'd it just because I didn't think I was really going to enjoy it. I don't think it was bad or poorly done. It just wasn't something that I was going to enjoy, and I decided to just cut my losses. One that I did think was kind of terrible was Shanghai Immortal. The main character was treated like a child and kept in the dark about a lot of things, despite being nearly a century old. And maybe for Immortals, that is really young, but I hated it. And there was like little to no explanation of why things were being done the way that they were. So it like made zero sense. The romance also kind of sucked because he did something, didn't even say sorry, he got hurt, and then she just kind of forgave him, and I was like, what? Overall, just a lot of things going on that really irritated me. One that I, at the last in the no tier, is one that I hate read because I didn't like the end of book 1, and that is A Curse Carved in Bone. I'll just slap you on in the middle. I hated the thing that happened at the end of book 1. So I was on board with Freya being pissed, but she was still mad 40% of the way through this book, and so I skimmed ahead, saw a reveal, decided to keep reading, and then when the reveal actually happened, it was so cartoony and ridiculous that there was just no redeeming things. So I kind of finished it out of spite, and I have the Bridge Kingdom set in my house, and I really hope I like that one better than this series. It would be so sad. So the next couple I have are some Ashley Poston books. The first is 7 Years Slip. This is going in the Made Me Feel, which put you right at the end. And then the next one is a novel love story, which is actually going to go... It was fine. 7 Years Slip had the same magic that Dead Romantics did for me, but a novel love story was... I don't know if it was too meta or something, but it ultimately didn't work for me. I did order Sounds Like Love. I think if that one doesn't work for me and I'm like 2 for 2, I might stop ordering them from Fairy Loot and just make her a library author, unfortunately. Spy Family goes in Made Me Feel. Same with Apothecary Diaries. These are both incredible manga, very different from each other. Spy Family is adorable, but also very impactful. It examines the impact war has on multiple generations of people, and is also super cute and funny at the same time. Apothecary Diaries is like vastly different, and in setting, tone, characters, all of it, but also has a sense, like, is also impactful, but also has a sense of humor. And then finally, I have a bunch of T. Kingfisher books that I picked up this year, and they are the Saint of Steel series, so Paladin's Grace, Paladin's Strength, Paladin's Hope, and Paladin's Faith. I also picked up Clockwork Boys, which is the first book in the Clock Tower Wars series. I think that's the name of it. Everything that you have heard hyping up Paladin's Grace and the rest of Saint of Steel is accurate, and you should read them now. Right now. Characters and events in Clockwork Boys were kind of alluded to in Paladin's Faith, which is the 4th book. And I have had such a good time with all of the T. Kingfisher books that I picked up this year, and I'm really excited to continue exploring the rest of her works. So yeah, that is it. Thank you so much for joining me. Like I said earlier, I am trying to get back to a more regular schedule of posting and talking about books and everything. So I hope I will see you guys in some of the other videos I put up soon. And I hope y'all are having a great reading month, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye.